provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was transmitted to 100 Democrat, Times of Trenton, the Star Ledger on December 29, 2023, posted on the township website, the municipal building bulletin board, and filed with the township clerk as required by law. So please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Diane.
David Bond.
Here.
Chad Bauer.
Here.
Susan Lockwood. Here. Joseph Bovee.
Here.
Mayor Wall.
Here. Okay, we have a couple sets of meeting minutes to approve. So the first set is June 10, 2024, regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes approved and hold. If I could get a motion and a second for those minutes.
I'll move the motion to the minutes.
I need someone other than,
Dave here.
I wasn't here, so
We're here.
yes, you were here for the June 10th.
Dave.
June 10th, not July.
oh, okay, yeah, I thought I said.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor to move the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. We'll move forward with the July 8th, 2024 regular meeting minutes to approve, and executive session minutes approve and hold. Dave, this is the one you have to abstain. If I could get a first and a second, please, to move the meeting minutes.
I'll move the minutes.
Second.
Okay, any comments on the meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And abstention?
Yes.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, we're gonna, if I could have a motion to open to public comment, and this will be on agenda items only. If you could please keep this to 3 minutes per person. And if you could please go to the podium and then state your name once called upon. So if I could have a motion. Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, open for public comment. Sir?
Chuck Line, resident. My question is on resolution 24-158. I would like someone to please, either now or when the resolutions are approved, to explain that in more detail and even why it's even the legislation is being presented.
I'll pull that for discussion, Chuck.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Ma'am?
I'm Andrea Wallace, and I'm commenting on number 10, the ordinance 2411. The Dilts Farm project is massive and comes with a very big price tag that's burden on the entire township. I think the decision to go forward with the bond should go to the voters. For that, I would like to see a public hearing postponed until September, when folks are not on vacation. When the public's concerns and comments can be heard, incorporated, and adjustments made to the proposed scope of the project.
Thank you. Sir?
Sir, my name is William Robert Fleming. I'm a Air Force man. I have lived here for over 50 years. I knew Sarah Dilts. She was 2 houses over from me. She wanted this park for the children only, not for pickleball or not for any improvements such as for adults. Hey, you gotta understand, we don't want to be IOU to borrow money to make the park look beautiful for 360 some kids, and none of them show up, okay? You know, we have a high school that has a lot of this sports field, athletic fields. Give it a break. You know, this is a community that loves their wide open spaces. You guys prove it because of the land that you own. Delaware Township owns a lot of land, and You're not getting any taxes from it, are you? No, that is please understand, we love Delaware Township to be reserved and preserved. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Thank you, John. Any other public comments? Sir?
I just had a question, is there gonna be,
Could you
I'm
please
sorry,
stand?
is there gonna be another opportunity to speak during the public hearing of the ordinance?
There will be.
Would you rather that we hold our comments until?
It's up to you. This is your time to speak, so you can speak
Yeah,
now or
I'll
you can
hold my
speak.
comments, thanks.
Okay, fair enough. Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Marlene, I'm a resident. I don't know your name, but I'm here to agree with you. I feel that there's so many people in this township who are not aware of what's going on. A lot of people don't go to the website, they're not web savvy, they don't know they don't know what's going on. So I'm here to urge you not to vote tonight. I'm here to urge you to vote referendum after everyone has information. Because, I mean, we get a postcard in the mail, Township Express about the Rec Commission's events.
Mhm.
Think about it. But we don't get a postcard in the mail telling us we're about to go to bond for a few $1 million plus. And I think we really should have that. I think everyone should have it. Like that gentleman said, there are so many people in this town who've been here for years and years, but they're not involved. Not because they don't want to be, because they have lives that are really busy. So I think if people were aware of what's going on, they want to have a say. And I think that's the only fair way. I think what you've done is good, but I think that maybe people should have a say. That's basically what I want to say. I really urge you not to vote tonight. Please postpone it. And to make it also very clear about what we're, we've seen the plan, the plan's been approved. Maybe if we get any more negative feedback from people in the community, maybe they consider amendments, maybe focus on safety, things like that. Because I don't know your name, but Andrew, as Andrea said, it's a lot of money, and I know what the per annual increase per home is estimated to be, but there's still another addition on everything else. So people should really be aware, and I'm just asking you to postpone the vote, please, and to have a look. Thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry, I missed you.
Roger Byron, Recorder's Farm. I just want to concur with the two women who are saying that this should be postponed. I'm not a cynical person, but the fact that you deferred the meeting from July the 12th to August the 12th, if I was a cynical person, I'd say perhaps you were advised to do that so that you didn't get the turnout that you're getting tonight. But even if you're getting a turnout here, there's 4,700 residents in this township. You're burdening them with this decision. So I think there is precedent. Dave and Sue remember other big issues that have been raised around election times, have been either put on the referendum when you wanted to take money out of the conservation money, or when we were looking about downzoning, pushing the decision until after the election so that the public can be able to let all 4,700 of them, their opinion be heard. So if you since I'm not cynical, I'll just accept that you made a very poor decision to have this meeting tonight, and I concur with the two women who have said, postpone it and consider a referendum. If you can't get your head around that, push the decision to the other side of the election, because you're making a decision that we're all going to be voting on, and that's not right in the middle of August. Thank you.
Mhm. Ma'am?
I also want to make the argument that this should be on the referendum, and I want to amplify what Dilts Farm said. It was never Sarah Dilts' intention to have the kind of park that you're designing. And I also agree that this is not the most obvious time to get the public's input on the vote we plan to take tonight. Also, I want to point out that we don't only love our open spaces. We love living in a community with farmers and teachers and people who will be heard by raising taxes. There is no excuse for raising taxes in this town to create a park such as you've designed. Thank you.
Ma'am?
Diana Garibaldi, Delaware Township. I concur with all the above, so I don't want to repeat all of that, use up my time. I wanted to go through ordinance 2024-12 and understand if that ordinance, it says providing various capital improvements in and by the Township of Delaware. Does that include for the authorization of $343,000 and change bonds? Is that part of Dilts Farm? What is various capital improvements entail?
These are for public road jobs.
Okay. And then the resolution 24-147 authorizing the submission of Huntington County Municipal Park and Recreation Grant application.
Mhm.
So is that safe to say that the application hasn't been submitted yet? And
This is authorizing us to submit that particular application.
for what amount?
I think the max award is 100,000, 150,000.
So would that possibly reduce the ordinance bond? Why not? Why are we
Yeah.
voting now? Why can't we wait until the grant is approved?
Because sometimes these the award procedures take sometimes a significant amount of time. That's why we put into the financials that were distributed to the committee members, assuming that those awards were not granted. So it's sort of the worst case scenario.
So the first 10 years that we've lived in Delaware Township, our taxes have gone up $1,010, which isn't that bad.
Mm-hmm.
However, the past 2 years, it's gone up $922, which is a significant increase. Currently, all Delaware Township residents pay for municipal open space and county open space through our real estate taxes. For
Mhm.
us, my husband and I, that equates to more than $560 a year, and I'm very happy to do that. But I think enough is enough. It's time to stop incurring more debt and start being more responsible. And I don't mean that as a negative to anybody here, but I think as a homeowner, I would love to complete all of our home improvement projects and property improvement projects at once, but we have had to phase our projects out over many, many years because we couldn't afford to incur more debt. I think the same should go for the township.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Sir, can I say?
If you can withhold, if it's in respect to this particular ordinance, I ask that you defer until we actually open for public meeting for that, because you've already had your opportunity to speak. Is that okay? Is that the subject matter?
I didn't have a full 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'll give you extra time on the other end. Is this in respect to the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, so if you could please wait until I open it for public comment during the ordinance period.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, if we could close public hearing, please, or make a motion.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, let's move forward with Township Committee Liaison Reports. Mr. Bauer.
Yeah, so I attended the rec commission meeting this past month. Just kind of following up on some of the items from the last meeting. Just want to say thank you to Diane for working with Diana to pull together a preferred vendor list that we'll be able to now hand over to rec and others. I think it was a good idea. Secondly, the one open item is the request for the Surgeonsville Green Survey, and that's under review. Once that's under review, we'll make it available to rec and I guess others as well. So we'll keep that on the radar until we're ready to release that. In terms of just new items, I think everybody knows that the Community Day and the fireworks are coming up September the 7th. The park will be open from 3 to 10 p.m. The Garden State fireworks vendor, it's the same vendor that we've used for years. That's been approved as a resolution. The only thing we're waiting on is just to confirm the permits. So I think things are moving forward there. DTA will be selling food there, and also there'll be some local vendors. So that's the Community Day and fireworks. There's also a spooktacular being planned for the month of October 19th. What I'd asked in our last meeting is that these guys just provide a list of events, so we can just get an idea of what events they're looking to hold at this spectacular. That way we can review it, make sure that we're all comfortable.
Thank you. Anything further? Mrs. Lockwood?
I'm looking through here, I guess probably the most important thing, which is also on the list of resolutions that are going to be approved in the consent agenda, is that the open space committee met, and kind of at the request of our chairman, we voted on basically using the land conservation folks for at least 1 year to see how that goes as the open space coordinator, since the year was going and we still had no coordinator. So we did follow up, Diane and Ross Westlake, and I actually met with the folks from the Land Conservancy to make sure that we both understood what it was we were expecting and what they were and were not expecting from us. And we have the resolution on the consent agenda to basically sign a contract with them to see how it goes for the year. So, because again, there's a concern, you know, we are collecting money in our open space trust and we need to be using that. And you can't do that if you don't have a coordinator, frankly. You just don't have the resources.
That is actually on the agenda.
It is.
Yes.
It's on the consent agenda.
Somewhere on here.
It's part of the consent
Yes,
agenda.
yes.
That's why I brought it up now.
Okay.
It won't be discussed again.
So do you want to have a poll for further discussion?
No, I'm happy with it.
Okay.
I'm just making sure that everyone knows it's on the consent agenda. And with the blessing of the Open Space Committee and the subcommittee that met and Diane as well.
Took a long time.
Well, as I said, we'll see how it goes, and we're hopeful that it'll be a positive, because we can't function without a coordinator, so we have to do something.
And so I'm going to be honest, I don't, like, we introduced this particular coordinator to the open space group 6 months ago. And we went full circle, here we are. We wasted 6 months of opportunity to spend $1.5 million that's sitting in the open space trust that's doing nothing for the residents.
Well, can I point out that had the committee not done what it did last year, we would have saved money on the coordinator, because this coordinator is costing us more than the coordinator we initially.
Which coordinator was that?
The one that the previous mayor scuttled after it was all set up. So I don't want to hear about wasting money, because we're spending more money, but that's okay. We need to do it, and I'm for it at this point, but the reason it took that long is because we had an opportunity which we squandered, and now it's costing us not a lot more money, but more money. And so, as I said, so don't tell me that we could have done it before. So anyway, so I'm happy with it. We need to do something, and this is the only option we have currently. And it's not a terrible option. It's just not maybe what we had in mind when we set out to do this the first time. That's all I'll say.
Is that it?
The only other thing I can say is, unfortunately, I have had conflicts with the MUA. I had a conflict this month, and I have a conflict next month. So I don't know, if anyone wants to sit in with the MUA. I kind of feel bad because I don't usually miss that many meetings. I haven't missed any before, but I had to miss August, and I will be missing September.
I can probably go.
So, yeah, if you want to.
You said for August or September, sorry?
September. It's the 5th.
Yeah.
I have a work commitment literally an evening work commitment that I have. Thank you.
All set?
That's good.
Great, thank you. Okay, I just have a couple things I want to report on. Sergeant Ellis, who is our Office of Emergency Management Officer, and I will be meeting with JCP&L on August 29th. The representative has stated that they actually have some infrastructure improvements planned for our area. I don't know what the scope, I do not know the locations, I don't know how much money they're willing to spend, but the good news is there are infrastructure improvements. So I will know more at the meeting on, obviously after August 29th, and I will report them back at the next township meeting after that meeting. I'll also make sure that I alert them to the problem roads that have been apparent throughout most of the outages that we've occurred for the past year. I've noticed certain roads that are always running out of, or always losing power. So I'll make sure I identify those to JCP&L. I'm sure they already know them as well, but I want them to be aware that we have recurring issues there and our residents are getting frustrated with it. So we'll see how far that takes us. Post office construction, little update, it's delayed again. So unfortunately, they had mentioned to us in the past that they were going to start in April, then it became May, then it became July. And obviously each of those time periods has passed us. The good news is we were in receipt of correspondence from the post office that basically said because they're a federal agency, they're not subject to permitting and inspection fees by the township. So that's a good sign. They're starting to plan ahead and save some money. So I'm hopeful that this is the start of whatever process is in place at the post office as an agency to actually get going and ripping down walls and whatnot at the post office. So as I get more information on it, I'll be sure to share it with the folks here at the meetings and online. Finally, voting location changes will be made for 2 of the districts here in the township. And that has been done because the feedback associated with the primary elections was not positive. Apparently there wasn't enough room, it was too noisy, it was too hot. So the county and the election board has decided the best course of action would be to take 2 of our 5 districts, move them to another location that is undisclosed at this particular point in time, so I can't even tell you where you're going and what districts they are. But the people that are affected will be receiving something in the mail from the election commission from the county stating where you need to go. And obviously when the township learns of the information, I will make sure that we share them through the township website, through these meetings. They'll put it online.
It'll be on the newsletter, we're hoping.
Okay.
We can get that information, the newsletter hasn't gone yet, and that's usually right on the front page. So
Right.
we have it set up on the front page. Fortunately, we didn't go yet, so we can add that information. We're hoping in the next 24 hours.
Thank you. Okay. As soon as, Diana, as soon as you get anything, if you could let us know. We'll be able to disseminate it to you folks. And then obviously, if you have any questions, you know how to reach us, you know how to reach Diana. Please do so if there's any confusion where you're going to vote for the general election. That's all I have. Mr. Bowman, do you have any comments?
No.
Mr. Bond? No comment. Okay, thank you. Okay, administrators report. Diane.
Okay, I only have 3 things. The construction department has hired a new plumbing subcode official.
Okay.
To replace Chris Rose, who retired. His name is Dan Nero. He started last week. The residents and contractors seem very happy to have him on board. He works in other neighboring municipalities and he's well liked, so we're happy about that. You'll see a resolution for the successfully completing the 90-day probationary period for Harry Bolger. I don't know if Justin's going to touch on that, but he's been a great addition to our team. We're happy to hire him. He's a great future. Last thing, I was just going to talk about the resolution for the Hunterdon County Municipal Park and Recreation Grant Program. Kind of touched on that. It's $50 to $150,000. We will have to contribute 25%, and it's due September 20th. And we're still waiting to hear about the infrastructure grant that was $100,000. We should hear about that soon.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. DPW report, Mr. Squashit.
All right, we responded to 14 down trees in town. trimmed back trees around several street signs. Drove through town 2 times picking up brush along the roadway and drainage ditches. Completed roadside mowing for the 2nd time this year. Removed the bus huts and restored the areas located on Sutton Farm Road and Mason Farm Road. Dug out a path at the Village Green over here, replaced it with DGA and stone dust. Clean catch basin tops throughout the town. Watered the trees on Lower Creek Road and the plants located at the police station, which that was refurbished to make it look nicer. Robert Growe helped us out with that, which was really nice and a great contribution to the town, I think.
Yes.
We reset the White Oak Trail sign on Route 29 that fell over. Replaced several speed signs in town. Completed paving on Granary Road. Regraded all the stone roads as well as the firehouse parking lot in Dilts Park. Salt cut the parking lot out here because we're going to be doing a drainage job in the parking lot. Paved a section of Lower Creek Road and started paving sides of roads where the asphalt's crumbling on the sides of the road. Also wanted to thank Mike Garris for his years of service. He retired 2 weeks ago. 24 years here. Want to thank Growe Landscaping also for helping us out at the police station. They pick weeds, help us plant some plants, put new stone down, mulch, things like that. And also want to congratulate Harry on becoming permanent status here in the town. He's been a great addition to the town, and look forward to working with him in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. All right, we'll move on to ordinances, what everyone's here for. So the first one is ordinance 2024-12, this bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Delaware and the County of Hunterdon, New Jersey, appropriating $460,952, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $323,260 worth of bonds and or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof. If I could have a motion to introduce, please.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Comment, I'll just lead off by saying this particular ordinance is for drainage issues on Mason Farm Road. Apparently we got a backup of water that refuses to drain. It then becomes a skating rink, and unfortunately cars that drive on it can easily slide off the road. If any resident walks on it, they can easily slip, crack their head, etc. It's a liability. The second portion of this is for Raven Rock Road, continuing improvements there. This is phase 2, I believe. This is still phase 1. There is a phase 2 that's sometime down the road, but this is a continuation thereof for a lot of drainage issues there as well. So, any other comments from committee members? Okay, hearing none, if I could set public hearing on...
Roll call first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, roll call, please.
David Bond.
Yes.
Chad Bauer.
Yes.
Susan Locke.
Yes.
Joseph Booth.
Yes.
Mayor Wall.
Yes.
Motion
Okay, set public hearing is what's our next meeting date? Thank you. Okay, ordinance 2024-11. Bond ordinance approving the improvements to Dilts Farm Park in and by the Township of Delaware in the County of Hunterdon, New Jersey, appropriating $2,054,613 thereof and authorizing the issuance of $1,951,882 of bonds and or notes of the township to finance the cost thereof. If I could get a motion for a public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any additional comments? Sir?
Yes, sir. Again, my name is Bill Fleming. I'm 78 years old, and you know, this money can be spent for senior citizens in housing, okay? Instead of the park, because the parks, Sarah Delts wanted for the children to keep it simple, all right? Now, we have wild animals in there. game warden goes in there and checks it all out. But also, we have to understand, how important are our senior citizens? I'm a Vietnam veteran. What did you do for me? Nothing. I don't see any senior housing there, but then you take the housing that these old people want and you push them to another county. You send them out of the area where they grew up, they love, and they nourished. So therefore, I challenge you to fix a crosswalk on the Lambertville Headquarters Road to, I'll just say, Scuse's property. There is no crosswalk or a sign that says children are going on a school bus. There is nothing there. You know, you're talking about millions of dollars, but let's face it, it's all about the children, all right? Let them play. That's what the schools are for. They've got the parks, they've got the tracks, they've got the football fields, they've got the soccer fields. How many more do you need to satisfy 360-some children that only go to this here Delaware Township School? I had 365 people graduating me in 1964 when I was in high school. So please be aware of the budget because they're spending money and the interest rate is going up. We're in for I want to tell you, we're in for trouble ahead because prosperity is not going to be as good as you think it might be. So please understand. Thank you, County, for your, it took me 5 years to get that handicap sign over there across the street. Okay? Thank you. 5 years, different mayors. And it is for me to say, it's not only for me, it's for other people, senior citizens that are handicapped. Please, I know you're going to be making some improvements by the store there. Are you not?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Each and every one of you are responsible for making these improvements. You've got the gentleman right there for the township who is working there. Great idea. But you know what? There's no crosswalk right there from the store to the inn. Okay? There's no crosswalk. I'm sorry. From the inn to the other places which you take children walking to the firehouse.
Understood.
All right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is it open for public comment?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Stephen Wilbur, Township President. Just a little unclear now. We're in the third year now since the referendum of collecting funds for park that can be used for the open space at Dilts Park. How much money is currently available, between that, some of the grants from REC, I'm assuming there's some sort of interest being accrued on the money that hasn't been spent yet? Like, where are we at ballpark?
So we have $240,000 of open space funds on hand that were collected through the referendum. We have $108,000 in a LEAP REC grant that is accounted for, and we have the letter of award for that. We also have $140,000 of county open space funds that are awarded and set aside for this particular project.
So we're basically $500,000 in money available to contribute towards.
Yes, which would go against that $500,000. Or I'm sorry, the $2 million. Yes.
So then I'm a little confused that why are we talking about financing 95% of a job that we can?
We're not financing 95% of the job. We're financing 3/4 worth.
1.95 million is $100,000 short of the total of the estimate.
Well, it's different because some of this is paying for the interest on the notes only, not for the entire principal amount. But what we can do is I can defer to our financial advisor.
I don't want to get into
Okay.
that level of detail because I have other questions, but
Okay.
it seems like we're asking for more money than we need to do the work based on what's in the reserves right now for work.
No, we're not asking for any more. Like, this is, the actual ordinance has a cap of $1.9 million on it, so.
And there was a post on the Sergeantsville neighbors, thing
Sure.
about, which estimated that the additional cost, tax cost, would be $18 for a $450,000 assessment for the average.
Yes.
Is that's based on all the numbers you just gave
That
us?
is based upon.
And based on what you're asking for?
Yes.
And then, of course, there's potentially another $250,000 in grants available through Hunterdon County and for the infrastructure in the
Exactly.
park. So that money's just gonna get pooled into phase two?
No, that would be utilized to offset some of the monies that we would need to borrow or pay off
So that would
existing
pay
notes.
off part of that
Yes.
grant.
Exactly.
Because, looking at the 2024 budget, I mean, the town right now is carrying a debt of $7,782,071. That's, our debt service this year is $578,000 and change. That's 15 cents of every municipal tax dollar we pay is going to pay debt service.
Yes.
And now with another $2+ million, we're gonna be
Right.
well north of 10 million, which
Mhm.
means next year, we're gonna have over $750,000 in debt service.
But if you look at
That's
where the
20 cents.
township sits respective to our debt ratio,
Mhm.
we are one of the lowest debt ratio towns in New Jersey.
But as my wife said earlier,
Mhm.
our taxes have gone up 4.5 times more without any of this in the last 2 years than it did in the previous 10 years. And now
And
we're
that has to-
guaranteeing it's gonna go up that much more moving forward, so.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of that is out of our control because that's all healthcare costs and benefit
Well,
costs.
no, but it's entirely within your control because we don't have to spend another $2 million on improvements to a park.
Okay.
I think there's no one in this room right now that would probably argue that the plan that was proposed,
Mhm.
it will greatly improve, the organization of the park, certainly the safety for, the parking and kids running across the streets. It's gonna make it much more accessible for people than it is right now. And, it's gonna replace obsolete infrastructure. But like we all do when we have to deal with issues with our own homes, you can't do a whole house renovation when you don't have the funds to support it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Sir?
Hi, ALL, town resident. I'm going to speak to the positives and say that this is a long time coming, and a vote yes tonight would be great for the kids in our town. Talking about the kids, we are at our highest numbers. I run baseball for DTIA, I'm on board for DTIA. We're at our highest numbers since before COVID. We host events at the park 26 out of 52 weeks a year. Our park is dated, the infrastructure is bad. Anytime you drive through there, you can see a kid almost getting hit by a car because lines aren't clearly defined. So in terms of getting this done, it should have been done years ago. We're not ADA compliant at the park. And another $18 in my taxes is well worth it for our kids' safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Joe Wiley. I'm a resident of Lambert Road. Some of my questions have been answered. I wanted to ask about the tax implications, and I believe, Mayor, you mentioned that at the first reading. Was it $18 for average house per year or per quarter?
There's a lot of variables, obviously, that go in that, but that's our estimate is $18 to $20 based upon the current interest rate, which we suspect is going to go down but we're assuming that interest rates are going to stay currently where they are.
Is that per quarter or per year?
That's per year on the median household in Delaware Township, which has an assessment of $450,000.
Understood. Another question. Are there administrative costs that have not been included in monies being requested in a bond? For example, there's a mention of bond counsel that may be needed at some point for the issuance of bonds.
Sure.
Or are there other administrative costs that have to be paid for outside of the cost of covering the ordinance?
It would be bond counsel,
Yeah.
but we wouldn't necessarily be going to bond. I think we're probably gonna, if we did move forward with this, at least in the beginning, roll notes.
Right.
Because notes get reset on an interest rate basis annually, and being that the trajectory of interest rate policy by the Federal Reserve is downwards, I wouldn't fully finance for 10 years. Right now, just as much, you wouldn't go out and buy a car and ask for a long-term financing at these interest rates. You know, the Federal Reserve is going to be reducing them, so you do the financing that affords you the reductions annually. So, and those do not have any sort of ancillary costs. Whereas if we went the bond route, we would have to go get the bond rating reassured, which does have a cost.
Okay. All right. This is another question, and I do have a recommendation. I don't disagree, by the way, with the idea that we don't have to do this now. Having heard everybody, I'm in agreement with a lot of the people that maybe it should be a referendum. At the very least, it should be postponed and get more broad public input. But that goes back to one other question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, have the committees of the township that have the most concern about parks and recreation, i.e. the open space and recreation, both the recreation and open space committees, been briefed on the proposed plan? I mean, I know they are aware of the plan, but on the bond ordinance itself.
I'm sorry.
Have the committees, that cognizant committees been briefed on the bond ordinance? Are they aware of the plan and the cost estimates and stuff?
Who, our committee?
No, the committee, the subcommittee of the town, recreation and open space.
Yes, rec knows.
Well, Rec knows, but literally, we didn't feel compelled. I mean, we're the financial arm of the township, so really it's,
Yeah,
we're the ones that need to be
I
educated.
understand from, yeah, okay. I do have one suggestion. I'm not opposed to the overall plan. And if you choose to vote on it tonight, my recommendation is that you include, if you can amend the ordinance, hopefully without going back and reopening the hearing, to include a two-phase approach. In the first phase, you would appropriate, i.e. sell the notes to cover the planning and design and get the detailed cost estimates. You would then be able to go to the committees, the rec committee and the open space and other committees, get public input on the detailed plan before proceeding with the full financing of the project. That way, everything is defined. We don't have to worry tonight about, do you really need a $350,000 facility, restaurant, or whatever is in the estimate. It hasn't been designed. And you may have enough money in the estimate, you may not have enough money. So to not embarrass yourselves, if you go through the planning and design, nail all this down, get more public input by amending the ordinance to provide a two-step process. I think everything would be a lot smoother.
Thank you. Sir?
Yeah.
My name is Jeff Barnes. The budget that I saw indicated you were building 3 paddleball courts.
Yes, sir.
Are you building any pickleball courts?
Pickleball. I'm sorry,
That's
not
not what
paddle.
it says paddleball.
It's pickleball.
All right. And do you have a detailed bid for your tennis courts?
We have an estimate.
$250,000 for tennis and basketball, separate facilities?
I believe that's what it is. I don't have the breakdown in front of me. Oh, what is it?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers with me, but.
Thank you. Let's see here.
Tennis and basketball, 280,000.
280.
Yes.
That's what the bids came in. Okay.
Well, not, the bids didn't. This is an estimate of, by the engineer, as to what those bids should come in at, approximately.
Has he ever built a tennis facility?
I would hope so.
Might want to check that.
Sure, I'm actually building a pickleball facility right now in White Township, so.
Tennis facility?
Not tennis, pickleball.
Okay, I had said tennis, so.
It's very similar. I played tennis my whole life, so.
Okay.
I think we can do it.
Sir. Here you go. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Brian Salewski, 44-year resident of Delaware Township. Mr. Fleming, thank you for your service to the country. You kind of touched on a point, right? Sarah Dilts built the park for the children. Yes, correct. What about the safety and health of the children? Is that you think that was in her mind when she gave the park? Or did you think that she wants this piece of land that we're not going to maintain and make it unsafe for the children to play?
It is up to the people who are conducting the recreation to provide the safety.
So I'm one of those people. I sit on Township Recreation, right? And the park is way antiquated, right? When I was there as a kid, it looks exactly the same, right? Actually, it's probably more dangerous, right? For our residents, I'm there every day, dude. Almost every day, right? I see it, okay? Excuse me, I didn't mean to refer you as dude. We need to spend the money on fixing this park. We don't need to add all these crazy things, but we just need to make it safe. And we need to worry about the health of not only our residents and our guests who visit the park, because I don't want to get a call, or Jess will get that call now, that the bathroom's not working because it hasn't been updated for 50 freaking years, right? It's disgusting. I traveled this state for lacrosse, soccer, baseball. I've been all over the state. Actually, I've been out of state, right? And I go to some private facilities like Diamond Nation, but I go to mostly public parks. And by far, and this has nothing to do with Justin because he's doing a great job over there, our park is worse than a prison. The bathrooms are disgusting, right? The entrances are tight. So any visitor there, if they're not paying attention, they could drive off the road or crash into one of our kids. And then what? We get sued for millions of dollars. Then what? Who has to pay for this? Us all, right? Correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. You're right. Right? So we need to finally buck up, right? COVID threw a wrench in this thing. We probably would have got this done sooner if COVID didn't happen, but it happened, right? Steve, we were talking about this 2018, 2019, and we brought it up to you guys, and then COVID derailed it. But here we are. Let's move forward, finally, right? Before my kids graduate high school, right? They're going next year. Well, 2 of them are going next year, but I got 2 more. And thank you for all your taxpayer dollars for my 4 kids in school. But my point is, I'm for this project. Enough is enough already. Let's do it.
Thank you.
It doesn't have to cost $2 million.
Amen.
Okay?
Have you been to the grocery store? Do you know what things cost?
It's on the cheaper end of things, sir.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Actually, Ms. Garibaldi.
Diana Garibaldi, Delaware Township. I had a question on the utility reconfiguration, specifically the sewer. When we have the money to build a new restroom, as was just said eloquently, probably, by the previous fellow, we need a bathroom, but what about the actual underground? There was a couple meetings ago, Susan, I think you said you didn't know if there was a cesspool or a septic. What's under there, and is that part of the funding to make that all that waste be environmentally cool?
I'm going to defer to
Just wanna
the
understand
engineer
that.
on that.
Sure. So, yeah, we actually looked into that. The septic system that's on site is functional, but it does need to be revised and updated. So that's going to be part of the design process, is replacing the restroom facility, the building that's there, with a new pre-engineered building that has more modern and durable restrooms, and then also evaluating and reconstructing portions of the septic system to make sure that we can manage the flows that we're experiencing in the park.
So it is part of the septic is going to be
It's going to
addressed?
be part of it, correct.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
And I also want to say, there's no sense of entitlement just because you've been here for 44 years.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Weber.
Jan Weber, Delaware Township resident. So tonight is about whether we move forward with the funding for the park. Tonight is not about what amenities the park is going to contain. It's not about making it safe for our children. It's about the park. It's about the burden on us as taxpayers, the burden on future generations as taxpayers. But to be fair, park is there, and we have a responsibility to maintain it. The question is, are we going to maintain the park, or are we going to... There's a difference between maintaining and making improvements that are appropriate to a rural/suburban community in Hunterdon County. We are not Milburn. We are not Short Hills. We don't need custom tile in the bathrooms, and we don't need manicured, perfect playing fields so we're not embarrassed in front of other parents. We need something that will maintain the park and something that is appropriate dollar-wise for our budgets. Okay? So tonight is a go or no-go decision, correct? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sir.
My name is Roger Harris. I live on Covered Bridge Road. Been here 35 years and raised 2 children. They both went to DTS and members of DTAA. Enjoyed many wonderful times at Dilts Park. A lot of laughs, a lot of great times, and I think it's a wonderful asset. I'm sure that when realtors show houses in Delaware Township, they make sure that the potential buyers know about Dilts Park. It's a wonderful thing. But I'll also say that as a retiree and a taxpayer, I'm concerned about $2 million. I think it's a lot of money. For $2 million, you can get a lot of stuff. And stuff requires to be maintained, and maintenance costs money. So it's not just the $2 million, it's also going to be further maintenance going forward. Today I spent a little time on the web, and I looked at the census data for Delaware Township, and going back to the year 2000 until now, so about 25 years, it's basically stagnant. It's gone up a little bit, down a little bit. But there was one thing that caught my eye. It said the median age of the population. And in the year 2000, the median age was 42 years old. And in the year 2010, it was 49 years old. In the year 2020, it was 56 years old. So it's gone up 7 years. That's the median age. So if you carry that forward, in another 6 years, it's probably going to be 61. I don't know how many 61-year-olds use basketballs and snack shacks and so on. But that's not to say that we shouldn't maintain it, like the woman who spoke just before me. I feel very strongly that we should. I just think that we should limit it closely. The other thing that supports the same thing about the population.
Sir, if you don't mind, could I just interact on that last point you made? If you don't have the facilities to attract young families to come to the township, they're not going to come. And the reason that you might see the census sort of travel towards the upper age bands is because young families aren't attracted in coming here. And they can't afford certain aspects.
So don't raise the taxes.
Well, excuse me, I'm talking. Thank you.
No excuse for it.
Sorry?
Just move on, move on.
You're talking. Please.
So, Anyway, so you have to have something that attracts young families to come to the township in order for the population to continue to grow here, because if it doesn't, then everyone's going to be left with higher and higher taxes. We need more rateables in the township. We cannot keep just preserving farmland. Or guess what? Everyone's taxes are going up. They're going up. So you need to make improvements here to attract young families. So anyway, that was my point on that. Please proceed with yours.
Okay, well, there's a debate there too about whether or not farmland preservation saves taxes or costs taxes. I don't think we're prepared to go into that. I disagree with the comment that the implication that the infrastructure at Dilts is not attracting young families. I think young family drive through there and say, look at this, it's great. It's got a basketball court, it's got a tennis court, ball fields. They don't look to the bath, they don't go to the bathroom, they just drive through. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. My point is that the population is aging. I don't think that there's as many people that use the park as there used to be. So that's it. Basically, I do support, as the woman ahead of me said, maintaining it. It's a wonderful asset. I just don't think the $2 million is, I think it's overkill. And so I urge you to reject it and also consider a referendum.
Thank you.
Sir.
I'm raising a different point. Roger Byron, headquarters spot. I'm reminded, I didn't realize that these numbers are just estimates. I recall, you know, Dave and Sue do too, when we decided to upgrade the police department. And I think I'm right in remembering that we had was it 100% overruns on the original estimate for the police department? It was enormous. So if these numbers are just sort of estimates that you've drawn from other projects, I think we need firm budgets. This is a lot of money. And
we can't go to bid unless we have the authorization to do that. This is the first step to do that. We can't go, hey, let's make an imaginary bid. If we were able to contract it, how much would it cost? That's not how it works, Roger.
Okay,
we need this bond, we need this ordinance to go through in order for us to allow the engineer to go out and get actual.
When we did that, and there was a similar meeting when you were talking about the police department. And
I wasn't here for that.
Dave, you remember that whole police department debacle? We trusted you. We trusted them. They said, okay, it's going to be $1 million, something like $1 million. Being like $1 million for a police department. I mean.
That was a different engineering firm too.
Oh, okay, different engineering. Yeah, we fired them too.
We fired them.
Right.
They're not here.
The point being, Dave and Sue and all of us have been here a long time. Trusted those estimates to go for the bond and $1 million. And I think I'm not wrong in saying, Dan, it was like $2 million by the time the thing was finished. So talking about increasing taxes, it's terrifying to make the commitments, Jamie, when we don't really know what we're making the commitments to. And so if we can't do anything other tonight, maybe Joss's suggestion of funding the design and planning phases, and then letting everybody know what that is.
We've done that. We've done that, Roger. We've had a meeting at the firehouse. Were you there for that? Where we went over? Right. So, okay, so you missed that. We did that. We went over, we planned everything. We afforded the public the opportunity to speak about what was going into the park. And we had a tremendous turnout, but it's funny, I look at the crowd here, I don't remember seeing many of your faces there.
Well, with all due respect, we're busy individuals, and that's why
so
we should
that was
have a
your
referendum.
opportunity
Just
to
have a
complain
referendum.
about the pickleball and
Yeah,
everything, so guess what, that plan is already approved.
Okay, so then put that to a referendum, and then
No,
people
why
like
are
me
we
will
putting
read
that
it.
to referendum?
Because people like me would then take the time to understand it. I can't keep up with all of the things that you're doing because we put trust in you, but when you come with a $2 million ask that is not firm, it's a troubling thing. So I really would request you defer it or vote it down, and let's go back to the drawing board. And we should have done that day with the police department. We really should have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I can, before the next person speaks, there were some comments that from a local government contract law is inconsistent with New Jersey law. And as you indicated, the engineer comes up with the estimates so that we can go out to bid and get a bid.
Right.
If a bidder responds and it's 100% over what the bid spec is. By law, you don't take it. They're not a qualified bidder and the bid is rejected. You go back to bid. If it comes back over the bid specs again, you reject it. And at some point, the engineer and I would be discussing with you about how under local contract law, you don't have to bid anymore, you can go negotiate, depending upon the situation. So I don't know anything specific about the police department, but I know what was represented here is violative of New Jersey law, and I can tell you as an attorney, could not have happened. You would have, as an operation of law, you would have had to reject the bid. And if there are cost overruns, the engineer has to approve it. And he's gonna look at it and say, no, that's part of the bid specification. Well, I didn't anticipate that. The response is, too bad, you gotta do it.
Yeah.
You know, so those are the types of things that go on. Now, sometimes there are cost overruns. The contractor will go to the engineer will look at it and say, that's legitimate. I'm not suggesting that a bid can never have an overrun, but it is not the private sector where you sign a contract for $200,000 and the contract gives you a bill for $400 and you have to pay it. It doesn't work that way with taxpayer money. There are protections when it comes to government contracts, correct?
Certainly, yeah, and that would be the first step, you know. And what's being represented is we had a conceptual plan prepared by JD Police, our park planner.
With the input of hundreds and hundreds of people at a duly advertised meeting. There were so many people from Delaware Township, it was probably 15 times the size of the people here tonight.
So our next step is, as part of this vote, we'll authorize our firm to go out, perform a field survey, do all the sort of nitty-gritty drainage design, grading design, addressing the traffic circulation, safety elements, handicap accessibility, or making it a facility that's accessible to all ages, all abilities, physical abilities, and then also looking at some of those other recreation facilities. Yes, there are basketball courts, they're falling apart. There are tennis courts, they're falling apart. There are tripping hazards, there are safety hazards, the fences are falling over. All of that needs to be fully reconstructed. So certainly, I heard mention of larger municipalities, more densely populated municipalities. Certainly, we're not proposing turf fields here or anything else. I mean, those would be, I don't know, maybe Jay could tell me 5 times more expensive if we started putting in like artificial turf soccer and baseball and everything else. That's not what's happening here. Really, the improvements to the fields, we're going to have the same fields. They'll just be better in terms of drainage, better in terms of safety, better in terms of maintenance over time, so that over time, the township's not expending as many funds to renovate and repair before every season the turf fields that don't drain properly, or the baseball diamonds that don't drain properly, and address those types of long-term recurrent maintenance costs that affect the public works and the rec and the DTAA to maintain those facilities. So that's sort of a hidden cost savings that's not really being talked about here, but that's also going to be come forward. In terms of the cost when this goes out to bid, certainly we're going to design the plans, prepare the specs, design all the detailed elevations and grades and lines and everything needs to be designed to do this. Then it goes out to bid. Those bids are going to come before this committee. If the committee decides this is, doesn't make sense, why is this so expensive, then we'll have to evaluate that. Interview the bidders as the attorney has indicated, as JT has indicated. We'll have to interview the bidders, find out what elements they found were more expensive than we anticipated. But these costs are all based on projects that we're currently putting out to bid this year, last year, and costs that we're seeing for similar projects of this type. So certainly there is some, it's not a wild ass, I'm sorry I said ask. It's not a wild guess that we're taking to make the cost estimate that we presented to the committee, but certainly there is some rough estimating going on to get us to this point. And then in the future, we'll have a more detailed estimate that we will present before it goes out to bid, that we know the scale of it as we should be anticipating on the project. So maybe, I don't know if that was helpful, but hopefully it was.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Yes, sir.
Can we keep this one short? You already?
He had his chance.
Yeah. You get.
Anyone willing to give up a
We
slide so I can have it expressive?
It doesn't work out.
It doesn't work out.
Commented for 6 minutes, sir.
Doesn't work.
Okay. you said I can comment.
No, you have. You've already had 6 minutes.
You already had 6 minutes, sir.
Yeah.
Robert's rules.
Hey guys, Jess Stahl, resident. I think we've already discussed this so many times. There are some things that definitely need to be done so that the children are safe. We can't be having them running across, the parking isn't wide enough, things like those. They need to be done. Signage needs to be added for safety reasons for people that don't know Dilts and then they're coming in and they don't know where to go. There's a couple things in here that I did want to ask about looking at the actual budget. Lighting and security, $32,000. We don't need lighting because we aren't open at night. So are there things like that that we're gonna cut back on if we determine that we don't need them? Let's say, if we vote tonight and you guys don't pass this, what are we gonna do about the tennis and basketball courts? Are we gonna shut them?
I'll address it. We're shutting them down. They gotta be shut down.
Okay, because that is a huge liability. And
Yeah.
I know that some people think that we're just cutting the lawns and making sure that they're manicured for the fields, but anybody on DTAA can tell you that we do that because we don't want a broken ankle. And if you just leave those fields and we don't keep up on them the way that they need to be kept up on, then we're gonna get sued. And then it's gonna cost us a lot more money. The one reconfiguration for the baseball field, they wanna do that because it's costing us, I don't remember what the number was, it's like $10,000.
15 to 20,000 a year to do it right.
Yeah, so
Every year.
to fix that, every single year, that's what we're spending because the drainage isn't correct.
That's with free labor, right?
Yes, so I was gonna bring that up too. Like right now, DTAA members, the volunteers, spend at least 200 to 300 hours every single year working at that park, cleaning it up. So we do need that, but I don't know if they're gonna be around here if they're not gonna have fields that are gonna work for them. So I hope that it passes. I know that it's a huge number and I know that a lot of people are freaked out by it, but it's not really that big when you consider that the school is spending $600,000 just to replace the playground right now. And I didn't see any of you there to talk about that. Not a single person was there when we had the solar vote because everyone was at this meeting talking about pickleball. And that could have actually made us $150,000 a year at that school. But no one was there to support it. So thank you.
Thank you. Real quick, I just wanted, and then we'll get to you, sir, if that's okay. I just wanted to point out that I have in my hand an ordinance that was passed in 2006 for open space that allowed the township to go out and get $3.14 million in bonds for open space acquisitions. This was in 2006. There's a long time ago. Interest rates were about what they are today, so we can't say that it was much cheaper to borrow money at that particular point in time. This did not go to referendum. This was passed much like we wanted to pass this evening. And we're talking about 2/3 of that amount of money. So I just wanted to make that point that I understand 2 million is a big number, but 3 million is a bigger number in 2006 than 2 right now.
We already had the tax that covered that, and we made sure that the amount fell within how much we were collecting and paid back our debt.
Which we are doing here, Sue, where a majority of this is covered by tax we're already collecting. There is an additional tax that's going to go to the taxpayers, but I would like to reintroduce next year another referendum for maybe perhaps going from 1/6 of the taxes down to 2/6.
So Jamie, I mean, it's a little disingenuous to say that because the 3 million back in 2006 was 3 million out of what? 3 million. We then built the police department and we bonded that. If we're going to be $10 million in debt, we've got to think about how we pay that. The second thing about the open space, and I know you keep wanting to take more and more away from it, we lose the multiplier effect. We've
I
had
know
this
we've
debate
been
over
through
and over
this,
again.
this isn't pertinent to this, please.
Well, but then you mentioned.
We're not, I
you
mentioned it,
open
but is that on the agenda tonight? It isn't.
Well, you
Maybe
raised
we
it, I
can
just
talk
want people
later
to
about it.
understand that the multiplier effect of open space.
We can
fund-
talk about it later.
We can indeed. Thank you for pointing out you're going to raid it again in the future.
Raid it.
In my opinion.
Oh, that goes to referendum, sir, so the people rated it, not me. The people. There was 3-1 that approved for raiding your precious fund. So,
A number of years earlier, we approved that precious
yeah,
tax.
and everyone realizes how ridiculous. Your balance in that right now is $1.5 million. When are you gonna spend it?
Don't spiel.
No. $1.5 million has done nothing, let's sit there.
We haven't had a coordinator for 5 years.
So if a taxpayer is in this town, moves here 3 years ago, and then leaves this year, has he seen any benefit from paying that money towards that open space fund? No.
Absolutely has. It's contributed to the fund for the benefit of the town.
Oh, for the benefit of the town. Okay, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's ridiculous. Okay,
What's
anyway. Someone else had a question that hadn't spoken previously, sir.
John Caparsi, Township President. Just a little of my thunder with the, working on the playground at the school. And I guess when I saw this number here, I know these are all estimates. If things are off, for whatever reason, underestimated, overestimated, and there's a budget that this project has to be built with, how do we, or how do you guys go forward deciding what gets maybe downsized, taken out, not done? Like where does that happen? Because that's what I'm concerned about, because just for one item, you know, $75,000 for the playground compared to between $500,000 and $600,000 for the one at the school, the footprint's pretty similar, if not bigger, than the one at the school. And I'm not sure what you're going to install, but you know, there could be a big discrepancy. And that's just my only concern. Listen, I've been here for 10 years. We moved here in 2014, as my friend Tim Soltis would say. I've been here for a cup of coffee. Okay, so that's not very long compared to a lot of you guys. The park's special, and I want this to happen. I want this to go through, but we have to be responsible. We have to figure out any unforeseen circumstances that might come up, and how are we going to accommodate those, and how are we going to deal with those. I know you had mentioned one thing I was going to ask, but you had addressed it, Adam, with the septic. With the, and forgive me, the font I printed was terribly small. With the restrooms, would that be, when it says prefab, would that be kind of built into the existing refurbished septic system, or would it be something new, or would it be part of a different building? And unfortunately, I was not at the meeting where it was presented. I did watch it on YouTube, and you guys did a great job, and I think the community response was very positive at that point. But something like that, like how is that gonna, what are we gonna do about the bathrooms, and could we incorporate that into maybe a different type of building? Perhaps a community center, like a barn, or something different that might not be originally planned on the first plan.
Well, that would be something we'd have to discuss with the committee. If we were to change the building composition and the layout. Maybe Jay can speak to that better than I could.
Right.
In terms of the buildings that are proposed, I know that the prefab restrooms are sort of like a concrete structure. So the existing building would be demolished.
Right.
And then a new building.
As it should be tomorrow,
Right.
for sure.
It would go in its
Yes,
place.
right. Yeah.
So yeah, the idea is that, yes, we would upgrade the existing septic.
Right.
Relocate the utilities to across the parking lot, because we're moving the proposed restroom into the center square area, to the park square. So those are the design particulars. We put in, or I put in, the prefabricated restroom building because we found those to be most effective, particularly in, we found them to be effective all over. I mean, they're 4 inches of thick concrete, so as opposed to building a stick building or getting an architect to build something, we found that these buildings are cost effective and very durable. So, I mean, we'll look at options, but I think, you know, the options are things that we know from experience have worked, are the point of starting on that discussion.
And if I can, just one quick moment about another question. The trail itself, I know we want to upgrade that to be compliant, to be, I guess, more of an asphalt type surface. What is that surface going to be?
No, we're talking the way that.
And I'll be finished, thank you.
The way that the trail is laid out, sections of it will be done in a crushed stone with binder.
Right.
We're trying to keep as much of the park porous and
Sure.
so everything drains through.
Right.
Not increase any runoff, actually trying to reduce runoff throughout the park. So that type of a crushed stone binder, I can show pictures or whatever, but
Right.
it's
I'm familiar with that. I just forgot when you presented that at the meeting at the firehouse, I forgot exactly what it was.
Yeah, and that's an ADA accessible surface, so now we've provided a porous surface that also be ADA accessible.
Cool. And then for real, the last thing, I know there's parts of the park that we let go to grass that isn't farmed. I know one of the things we kicked around the departmental commission was if there, and this is very low on the priorities for this project, so but something I thought of, if we can do anything to let it go to say wildflower, something where we can contribute some sort of pollinator seed thing out there. Is that part of that as
Yes,
well? Okay.
yes, I'll go into that in a
Excellent.
little bit.
Right on. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I look forward to see the project.
Thank you. Jan? Hey, Jan, did you speak during this session already?
I did. This is a
Okay.
different topic.
No, yeah, I'm sorry.
All right.
It's Robert's rules.
It's a request.
This is a public hearing.
Yeah, just send me a Facebook message or something.
But there's a second public comment.
Yeah, there's a second public comment later in the meeting.
It's about the park.
Okay, so you can do it, later.
All right.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
All those in favor? Okay. All right, I would like to read prepared comments that I have. Please don't sneer while I'm making these. And then after that's completed, I would ask Jerry, our park planner, to go ahead and kind of just do a quick run through of the park. That was the plan that was previously approved at a township committee meeting a couple months ago. That was introduced at the firehouse, and everyone was invited to come and provide input on that. Didn't see a lot of you folks. So he would like to do that. And then Adam's going to talk about the environmental impacts that we're trying to improve through this very same project. It's all not about new jungle gyms, new ball fields. It's actually other things that you folks would probably appreciate. So I want you folks to listen to those, and Adam's going to present those to you. So I'll go ahead and read my comments, and then I'm going to open it up to those two gentlemen, and then the township committee can make their comments, ask questions, etc. Okay, it's been two years, 9 months since the park referendum was passed, and passed by a 3-to-1 margin. The township, as you know, has collected roughly $1.5 million of tax revenues associated with the open space tax during that time. 1/6 of that is allocated to the park. The following improvements have been made at the park these past 3 years. A trail walking bridge was repaired, a fire pit was installed, and a Gaga court was constructed. Beautiful things. And guess what really stinks about all these? Eagle Scouts did these projects. The township had nothing to do with these. So we're depending upon Eagle Scout projects to improve our park. That's pretty sad. Residents have paid for $1.5 million in open space taxes over the last 3 years with absolutely nothing to show for it. That includes park, that includes open space. Nothing's been done. You've paid that money. It sits in a bank account. Today is the time for this committee to deliver on the mandate of that 2021 election referendum and pass this capital ordinance to leverage our open space tax receipts and deliver the following improvements to our park and our tax-paying residents. Make the ball fields, tennis, and basketball courts safe for use, and the roads into and around the park safe for driving and traversing on foot, and that includes parents and children. Make the bathrooms and snack shack, which collectively is our community center in the plan, plus the walking trails, ADA compliant for all of our residents to use. Make the park environmentally friendly and sustainable. We're actually introducing stormwater friendly, preventing runoff and soil erosion technology through a series of retention ponds and porous walking and parking services in the park. We are also creating eco-friendly habitats for native wildlife using pollinator gardens. The only additional amenity to the plan are the pickleball parks, whose costs represent 5% of the overall project budget, and received overwhelming positivity at our park plan unveiling at the firehouse.
No, it didn't.
Excuse me, I'm speaking. The ordinance allows for the previously mentioned park enhancements for the cost to the median homeowner of roughly $20 a year if all grants are awarded. The committee has been transparent in our intentions and actions, especially in respect to the park. We have had numerous meetings in presenting, vetting, and discussing the very park plan we are voting to proceed with this evening. We have hired a park planner that created a long-term vision that was provided to and met by the public with overwhelming positivity and excitement. And that happened at the firehouse, but you weren't there. It is time for us to deliver to our residents tangible benefits of those tax dollars that they are paying into that fund. Therefore, I encourage the committee members to vote to approve the ordinance as it stands this evening. If we do not pass this ordinance, I feel it will be necessary for the committee to seriously consider shutting down some areas of the park until an a la carte solution has been explored and approved. Utilizing many smaller scale projects has several disadvantages to the one for which the committee has under consideration this evening. Loss of efficiencies in regards to the economies of scale, which are a bunch of small jobs with equipment moving in and out, adds hard dollar costs, and materials ordered in smaller batch quantities result in higher costs per unit. Consistency between jobs will be at risk since a single contractor is unlikely to be available for all contracts and bids. Contracts awarded and paid for in the future will inherently have higher costs because of inflationary tack-on effects. Overall project grading will be difficult to accomplish when done in a piecemeal fashion. And finally, disruption duration at the park will be significantly greater with many smaller projects. So that's my position. I'm opening up for the rest of the committee members to make their comments and or ask questions.
So, Mr. Mayor, I just want to echo what you just said. I appreciate the comments that not only came tonight, but what has been shared for the last 3 years. I reflect back on a number of objective discussions that have been had relative to Firehouse or the presentation of the initial kind of unveiling of the ideas. And also being a parent and having lived and been one of those people that spent 200 to 300 hours a year volunteering for DTAA so that my children were safe. I have an obligation. I have an obligation and responsibility to move this forward. And it's not just the children we're trying to keep safe. I watched with my own 2 eyes, Dr. Glassner will attest to this. We rent the fields out to or provide opportunities for the church leagues to come out and play. I watched somebody come around third base, and it was not the base, it was the unevenness of the actual field, pop his Achilles tendon. That's just one example. There's many of those. I have an obligation, and I'm committed to it, and I'd be happy to pay another $20 per $400,000 to keep the children safe. The children are our future. I respect the position that many of you have. It's our obligation and my priority to make sure we move this forward.
Thank you. Ms. Lockley.
I have thought long and hard about this. In fact, too long and too hard. And I really want to like the plan. I really don't care for it. I think it's too much. I'm concerned, for example, I totally hear that one field is wet all the time. we added 2 additional parcels to this park, which we spent good money on.
Mhm.
And then when we went to do the park plan, we told the park planner he couldn't look at those sites. It's very possible that one of the lots that right now is in farming might be a nice, well-drained field that could have been used instead of all the drainage that's being proposed to deal with. So I'm not suggesting, I don't know. But I will say, we bought those fields with the idea to have potentially additional fields out there. And then I said, we tied the park planner's hands and we told him he couldn't even consider that or look there. So I feel like the plan is really, I don't know. I'm not sure that it's the right plan. And as much as I would like to think it's the right plan, I'm not all that convinced that it is. I also think
You
that
voted yes for it at
I
2
voted
meetings ago.
yes because I'll repeat it again. I want to like it, but I don't really care for it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And the other thing is, the other reason I voted yes is because, again, we did need to get this summary of how much this stuff is going to cost. And we wouldn't have done that. We had to have a plan in order to be able to talk about costs, or at least to start talking about costs.
Agreed.
So we
Agreed.
couldn't have gone that far, and we needed to know that. And, But again, when you get a cost list, again, I mean, I get your economies of scale and all that, but I feel the same way as some of the folks who talk there. When you get a list of this stuff, it's like your Christmas list, your kid's Christmas list. You ask them what they want and they write down everything, and then you pick out 1 or 2. You don't do the entire list.
So I think that the one thing here, Sue, that is the real problem is there aren't new shiny toys here at all. The only thing that is here are pickleball courts. The rest of it is all safety, all environmentally conscious stuff. We lose $30,000 in soil to soil erosion that end up down Buchanan Road. If we do this, that will stop that, and I'm sure those neighbors down Buchanan Road will certainly appreciate the fact that their ponds aren't filling up with silt.
And I'm sure there are probably a lot less expensive ways if we weren't trying to put a field on there. You could just replant that, but you need the field, which is a whole different thing, and that leads to different types of erosion because, again, you need a field. You want a field there. You don't want a meadow. If you wanted a meadow and you put a meadow there, you might not have.
We're integrating some meadows into the plan to prevent the runoff.
My point is that the field and the runoff are going together. There's a lot, I would think, cheaper way if you're only dealing with the erosion, but you're not. You want a field, and I'm not saying we should lose it. And I'm not saying we should lose a field. I am not saying we should lose a field. I'm just saying, my feeling is you find a better location that maybe doesn't need the same level of stormwater control that particular location does. Again, I'm not suggesting those other sites would be any better, because I don't know, because we never looked. We never gave the
To the
planners-
dismay of a lot of residents, you think this is a big crowd? Talk about expanding out to those other fields. We're gonna have a much difficult time.
You keep saying we spent all this money. We bought those fields.
I didn't spend the money, I wasn't here for that, so I don't know what you did, but it's already said and done.
Fields because, again, you think we didn't care about the park. We were caring about the park. We were looking toward the future, and we said, look, here's the last opportunity to get more land that we might want to use. We might need more fields. We might need a lot of things. That's why we bought those extra properties. We didn't just buy them to go to pollinator gardens. We bought them for the potential to use them in the future. And to not actually even look there, I think was a mistake. And I just.
I'm not sure who mandated that we not look there, but that was the decision by the committee, so.
It wasn't by this committee. There was, when the planner came in, he said, I was told I'm only looking at this, and I'm not looking at those other, and I don't know where that came from, because that never came to this committee. So, it's, what's done may be done, I don't know,
Also,
but
I
I'm not
know,
convinced
Sue,
that the plan.
there's a lot of people that
Excuse
voted.
me, you keep saying I'm talking now,
Okay,
I'm
Sue, go
talking
ahead.
now.
Go ahead, I'm just trying to make it a point.
Well, as I said.
Okay, go ahead.
So all I'm saying is that I don't feel like that I have all the information. You know, I don't know this is the best possible plan. And with that, I'm not, and I'm also not comfortable ending up with a new tax on people. But as I said, again, the maintenance stuff, we said we needed to do that, but we didn't need a planner to tell us that. We already knew we needed to do that. So if we did this whole thing just to learn that we needed to do
You wouldn't let me put maintenance in the open space ordinance. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be talking about this. That this is a creation of your own restrictions that you put on the open space tax.
Yeah, that's right, and I'm really glad we did, because the short-sighted people like you, thankfully, weren't living here at that point.
I'm not short-sighted.
You are entirely focused on, 3 years, and we have been planning this town and protecting open space and making this, that's why people come to live here. They don't come to live here because we have a park that's got a great softball field. They come
Actually,
to live here.
I'll take the, wait a sec. We actually had, on our last bond ordinance, one of the answers was, what do you find to be the most appealing aspect of the town? The number one item on there was Dilts Farm Park.
Yeah, well, I
That-
can show you surveys that we took, and the number one thing was basically the farms and the open space,
Yeah.
and it
Well, we
wasn't the
can
park.
compare
So
surveys,
we don't
but-
need to go there, but I'm just saying, you keep disparaging the work that we've done for years.
I'm not
that-
disparaging
Yes, you
anything,
are.
Sue.
You are.
We have
And
got to
that is-
maintain what we have, and it's not maintained. It's a safety issue. That's what you don't understand. It's a massive safety issue. And then, just like Mr. Brian had stated, eventually someone's gonna get hurt, someone's gonna sue the town, and guess what? The bill's gonna be a lot higher than this $2 million. And that's gonna fall on everyone. We've got to make this.
This is falling on everyone already. This is falling on everyone. Don't say it's gonna fall on everyone.
Sue,
This
we are
will
in
fall
all the
on
minutes.
everyone.
Sue, in all the minutes of these meetings, it has been said repetitively, the park is not safe. We had people come in, say the park is not safe, the parking lot is not safe. All of that is operable. The second that someone gets injured there and they Oprah all these meeting
Yes,
minutes,
thank you. I'm sure you've now done a good job for us all because you put us all in that situation.
what are you talking about,
That's the
Sue?
reality.
Well,
The
the
safety's a
reality
reality.
is,
It's a
is,
reality.
this park has been there for almost 40 years.
Yeah, it's falling apart.
It hasn't.
Huge problems.
I go to the gentleman who said, there is a little bit of responsibility on the part of those who go there to see that people are safe.
They
You
do
know
the
what?
best they
I
can.
don't need to have, and again, I'm not.
They're
suggesting-
volunteers, Sue. They're volunteers.
And I'm not suggesting, I don't litter much out there. We bring the kids in there, I've been
You're
there.
helping the situation, and it falls on you to make sure
That's
everything.
exactly.
But it falls on you here to make sure they're safe, and I'm gonna tell you, this is a lot more responsibility than your litter march, okay?
Well, you know what, then we should just shut it all down and let people just go out and walk because it's safe to walk
Good.
out
Well,
there.
that's what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to
And
shut
you
it
know
down,
what?
Sue.
Guess what? I bet you the majority of people here won't even know the difference because they don't even know where the park is and they don't use all those.
You know what, Sue? I love how you get so excited when your base is here. All I know is when I'm out and I talk to people that use Dilts Park with their kids, they're not here tonight because they're with their families somewhere, okay? They have young families that they're taking care of, they can't be here.
You called the
These
meeting in
folks,
August, that's why they're not here.
I'm sorry?
You called the meeting in August. We hardly ever do like a big meeting. like
We
this
were
in
supposed to do it in July, but Mr. Bond was sick. That is not my, that's not my fault, Sue.
We hardly ever do an important meeting like this in August. Specifically, and I'm telling you, your people who are here, they're probably on vacation. That's a wonderful
With their
thing.
families, that's
And
great.
I'm not
That's
saying
great, but I
that's
know
their
what
fault.
they're saying to me, and they're telling us they want the park. And that is evident. The only thing that I have is the referendum that occurred 3 years ago.
Yeah,
And it
I
was
had
3-2-1.
5 referendums before that put that open space tax. in
Yeah,
place.
and so what? We can put out another one and see if people want their taxes reduced, if everyone's so burdened by it. Let's see what happens. So, anyway, are you done?
Evidently.
No, keep talking.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna argue with anyone who's concerned about taxes going up. I get that, that was why I ran in the first place. I didn't want to see taxes going up more. They do go up, and, you know, this is one of those situations that isn't easy for me, and I've been back and forth on this. However, I've heard from a lot of people in the town. I've lived in this town, I've lived in Dilts Corner, a mile away from the park, or less than a mile, my entire life. And since I could ride a bike, I've gone to that park, and I can tell you most of the time there's not a lot to do at that park. But, like I said, it's a lot of money, and I get that completely. About $20 over a long course of time, right? That does add up, so I understand that. But being on this committee for 10 years, I haven't heard so many people try and push me to something, residents, and use the excuse of what's $20. My taxes go up more than that usually, every year it seems like, for things that I get nothing out of, whether it's paying for, people, for employees, for that kind of stuff. It's important, I'm not saying that. But most people feel like they're getting something more out of this $20 than they would be any other tax increase they're really, experiencing. So, like I said, a lot of what we're hearing in this room right now does not reflect what I know is what the majority of the township feels. We already had a bigger meeting, a lot more people there. But again, I get it. At the end of the day, it could be the most magical park ever, but if you don't want to spend the money, I get it, you don't have that money. But that's not kind of what I actually feel like most of the township feels. They think it's worth it. So, that being said, and this is not to be rude to anyone in the audience at all, but I have been on this committee for 10 years, and I feel like we could be talking about something for 10 years, advertise it, put it on the internet. I don't even go on Facebook, and I'm doing that crap, but it would be out there, and everyone would see it, and there would still be people who show up and say, oh, I never heard about this. And that's kind of tiring too. So I get it, so I can understand why people have faults, but I feel like the majority of the township is for this. And some of them are more excited than they have been, for any other project we've really worked on. And there's a lot of, people very, seeing this as a positive thing too. So, yeah, it is a tax increase, and I'm not totally cool with that. But again, we spend a lot of money on a lot of other stuff. At the end of the day, I think a lot more people are going to get their money's worth out of this. That's what we have here.
No. Sure.
Okay. How much time we got?
How much time is you want, Dave?
First off, I just want to say one thing. Mr. Fleming, I got you beat. I've lived in this township 83 years, okay?
He's had to go home to bed, Dave.
Not that that matters, $1 that and a couple of bucks to give you a cup of coffee. But anyhow, I have questions. My main concern was initially, this was it. But as I understand and I listen, this will be broken down and going out to bid for different sections of this project. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's specializations, right, where people are more specialized with certain aspects than other groups, correct?
I guess we haven't formulated or structured the bids yet, but certainly if there seems to be a logical way of breaking up the project, we probably could. We also talked about briefly about potentially phasing the project, phasing in terms of we would award the project and then different areas of the park would be worked on at different times under one contract, so that, you know, we don't want the entire park disturbed simultaneously.
The reason I asked the question is a lot of contractors in the town would like a chance to bid on certain projects here, such as the demolition of the old buildings and so forth, like on the top page here. You know,
We would have to follow the local public contract law, certainly, we can work with them.
But to Committeeman's point, in other contracts I've been involved in, breaking the project out into different sections using it can be advantageous because you might get somebody who would bid a lower bid just on that section, and then, you know, you can
we would have to
pick and choose,
sure,
but yes, that could be beneficial.
my concern is I don't want to see a one contractor do this whole thing. Because, well, it's just better to break it down a little bit.
And what happens a lot, you know, contractors do have specialization, certainly in specialties. And they might come in with the subcontractors to do some work.
Give some, at least let our local people a chance to bid on it. We have a lot of contractors in the township. I'm not saying they need a job. I'm saying give them a chance. Give anybody a chance to bid on certain aspects of this. I don't like to do business with one contractor doing this whole thing, like basketball courts and so forth. Takes, you know, there's a special contractor that can do that. You don't need the guy that's got to go out there and level the ground off for the concrete or blacktop for the other courts. That's a question, and I guess I think according to our attorney, it's been pretty well answered. And I want to just go back to what we've heard all night long. We did have a referendum. Firehouse is packed. And it passed, big time. This crowd tonight is, you know, we're not very big compared to that. So the township basically does want this to happen. Here's I can tell. And question I have at the end here on this budget, so-called budget, is 10% contingency fee. In other words, the initial cost is $1,624,000. Then we have a contingency fee. What that's all about, I just don't understand. I'm not complaining about it. I don't understand it. What's contingency fee? Who gets that? What's that about?
I think that's just a build into the budget that the township has in case there are, not that we're adding work to the project, but if there are overages during the bidding process, we have a 10% buffer in the bids. The bids come in a little bit high, which can happen at times. And we do that on all road jobs and everything. We include a bid contingency.
And then next is design, engineering, and permitting fees. Where we need the permits. And here comes up at $267,000, almost $268 for design, engineering, and permitting. How many times have we designed this? I mean, we have the design over there.
Well, that's a concept plan. That's not detailed in terms of grading, earthwork calculations, details of the courts and the fields and the other elements that need to be designed. The stormwater management certainly, the mayor indicated, the stormwater management facilities need to be designed.
You have to find a plan that any contractor should be able to read. That's what you're.
Understood, but they,
you want to grade it off so the water runs downhill.
Right.
And,
it does.
I agree the park needs a lot of work, no doubt about it. And then, where's the fees? Who are these fees? Who do they go to?
We know we're gonna have to do soil
Delaware
conservation.
Township? We have to pay Diane fees to get this stuff? I mean, it's on here, see, the whole thing starts out at 1,600,000.
Certainly, that's, you know,
And
part of
then
that.
this other stuff, all it comes up to 2 million.
Part of that are engineering, surveying, design fees, soil testing fees. We'll have to prepare applications to permitting to the Soil Conservation District. The intention will be, you know, not to impact timelines, to avoid where possible any NJDEP permitting. But we don't know what those impacts will be until we finalize the plan to prepare the plan.
I see. Another thing you got on here, lights. If there's anything we don't need down there, it's lights.
I think we heard
Why
that
do we need
as
lights?
well, certainly.
Yeah.
Because lights lead on the trouble.
I think it's just safety stuff, Dave, nothing.
I understand, but still.
Yeah, certainly no field lighting,
Yeah, no
stadium
field
lighting, nothing like that.
We need a policeman down there to control everybody. We get more outsiders than we need here. I was talking to somebody the other day, they said, what do you mean Delaware Park? Where's that? I didn't know Delaware had a park. Well, that's great. I'm glad they don't know about it. So let's keep it that way if we can. We don't need an Olympic park down there. We need a nice park that's safe and able for everybody to use.
Yep.
And if that's what it's gonna cost us, I guess that's what it's gonna cost us. But I'm hoping that this is broke down some, that our individual contractors in the township or in the county or even in the state can bid on this thing, not one contractor or the whole thing, because that's not a good thing. I hope the mayor would see to that. I don't like this way of doing business. I think basically right now that's all I have. I mean, I got lots of items here, but they'll vary one way or the other. So that's all the questions I have at the present time.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Okay.
Any follow on? All right, get a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion. Second.
Roll call, please.
Dave Bond.
I'll vote yes on ordinance 2024-11. Yeah. Hopefully, some of this stuff will be carried out that I talked about, and hopefully it'll come in under the cost once we get it settled down, and hopefully there's more than one contractor involved.
Chad Bauer.
Yes.
Susan Lockwood. No. Joseph Oki.
Yes.
James Moore.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. So we had a couple that needed to be pulled. Those were
158. 158, no?
Yeah, that's right. That's 158. Okay.
That I heard.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and read the consent agenda. So we have resolution 24-147, authorizing the submission of Hardin County Municipal Park and Recreational Grant application. Resolution 24-148, authorizing CFO to approve payment of certain bills for the meeting. Resolution 24-149, tax appeal tax cancellation 2024 block 39 lot 24. Resolution 24-150, conditional hiring plumbing subcode official and inspector. 24-151, award of contract for lease vehicle 2025 Ford utility interceptor with accessories and emergency equipment. 24-152, award of contract public works 2024 dump body and associated equipment. 24-153, award of contract public works vehicle 2024 Ford F550 4x4 DRW. Resolution 24-154, Public Works Labor Class E Upon completion of probationary period, Resolution 24-155, authorizing public sale of municipal property through municipal. 24-156, authorizing dedication by rider pursuant to NJSA 40A4-39 for the tree replacement fees. 24-157, authorizing issuance of special event permit, Central Clubs Bicycle Club. 24-159, amend 2024 capital budget, Raven Rock Road Phase 1 and Mason Farm Road drainage improvements. -160, authorizing tax sale certificate redemption, block 29, lot 39. 161 is non-fair and open contract, the Land Conservancy of New Jersey. And finally, 162, authorizing mayor to sign blue light permit application for Surgeonsville Fire Company members. If I could get a motion to move the consent agenda without resolution -158.
So moved.
Good, second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
David Bond.
Yes.
Chad Bauer.
Yes.
Susan Lockwood.
Yes.
Joseph Bogie.
Yes.
Mayor Wong.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about Resolution 24-158, opposing proposed legislation bypassing local zoning for home-based ordinances. If I could get a motion and a second for discussion. I'll make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so JT, if it's okay for you, I'm gonna leave this to you because you really know the ins and outs.
Oh, do I?
Better than I do, so.
Yeah, please put that in air quotes. So I'm assuming this came from the League of Municipalities? Yeah. So in essence, as is the propensity of Trenton, they like to pass legislation wherever they can to render the local municipality irrelevant. And what they're trying to do is to pass how property can be used in a municipality and strip the municipality of being able to regulate through its own ordinances. So the league, in this regard, I think is right to recommend municipalities oppose this because, quite honestly, it's not Trenton's business what Delaware Township wants to do within Delaware Township. That's why we have our own ordinances, that's why we have our own planning board, that's why we have our own board of adjustment, because the local residents know this. And what Trenton wants to say is, you Delaware, mind your own business. You will have no say in how the township is regulated with respect to the home businesses. We're gonna set the regulation and you'll have no input. And I can tell you without even reading what they say in Trenton, philosophically, in my opinion, it's completely inappropriate for Trenton to be dictating. In essence, New Jersey land use law is always big. There's this thing called home rule, right? In other words, everybody gets to regulate how you want to see your town develop, whether you want to be rural, urban, whatever. You get to set your own practices, and this kind of strips away from that. So I think I think it's going to have no effect, right? This is a feel-good thing in terms of, but it couldn't hurt to send Trenton a message to basically stay in their lane and stay out of your sandbox. Right? That's what this is.
Can I just ask one question on that? Does that mean that if somebody wants to put a business on their property, they don't have to worry about Delaware Township ordinances, they just ask somebody in Trenton?
Yeah, Trenton would dictate how, on this particular issue, how we in Delaware Township would have to handle that. You and the local residents would not be able to say how Delaware Township should feel and operate. And to me, that's always wrong, right? You elect people in Trenton to waste your state taxpayer money. They don't need to get involved in this sandbox. It's better to be done at a local level where the residents can have direct access to their elected officials, go to specific applications before, whether it's a planning board or board of adjustment, and be heard there. There's already a process in place. Like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Okay, I would urge the committee to oppose this legislation.
which is what this resolution says.
Any comments from the committee members?
And I mean, I don't know any of the details, but I don't know, again, every town is different. So especially something home-based like that should not be something that you get a directive from the state on, because like I said, every community is different, and where a business is and what it is may make sense in some community and not in another community. So it really doesn't make sense to have state law to tell you what should and shouldn't be considered appropriate in your community. We're all different.
Got it? Anything? Nothing? Makes sense.
I actually don't quite understand it. Yeah, I've read it for 25 times. This is opposing proposed legislation bypassing local zoning for home-based businesses. Local zoning, that's us, isn't it?
Right.
Right.
So the state wants to overrule our local zoning essentially.
Proposed legislation. I see. It don't really say this, okay. But that's, all right, I now know.
You okay?
Very good, yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, should I roll call this one?
You do all day.
Okay. All those in favor of resolution? I'm sorry? Oh, okay, that's right. We didn't do that.
I'll move it.
Second. Okay.
That's okay.
All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Okay, resolution 24-163, authorizing payment of municipal obligations in the amount of $2,108,453.11. Could I have a motion? Motion. Any discussion?
Just one, Mayor, you just want to let some of the residents know that there's school and county payments in there, so they don't get a heart attack.
Yes, this isn't for the park. Any comments from the committee? Okay, roll call please, Diane.
David Bond.
Yes.
Chad Bauer.
Yes.
Susan Lockwood.
Yes.
Joseph Bogan.
Yes.
Mayor Walton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, I don't see anything under old business, new business. Acknowledge resignation of zoning board of adjustment member Kane Fowler. Chuck, Kane was a member for how many years?
I believe it was 6 years.
6 years.
And he was a good contributor to the board.
Well, we thank him for his service and wish him well. I know that he's no longer going to be in the township, so I wish him well wherever he goes and all his future endeavors. So please thank him for us, Chuck.
I already did. He's heading to Florida.
Good for him. Next up, appointment of zoning board of adjustment member to replace Mr. Fowler. I'd like to make the suggestion, Mr. Charlie Herman expressed interest in that position. So I'm going to nominate Mr. Herman. If I could get a second on that. Okay, should we do a vote or a?
You want to do discussion?
Yeah, discussion. Anyone have a discussion?
I think that'd be a great idea.
So do I.
I don't.
Hey, I have to live with it, not you.
I kind of figured. Okay.
So fantastic.
I shouldn't ask for a zoning board of adjustment position later, should I? Anyway, that's obviously. So, roll call, please.
Okay, David Bond.
Yes.
Chad Bauer.
Yes.
Susan Lockwood.
No.
Joseph Bogan.
Yes.
Mayor Walton.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, Historic Advisory Committee presentation, abandoned cemeteries, proposal for preservation.
Okay.
Liza, the floor is yours.
I'm going to give you each a little packet of information, and I'm here today to hopefully begin a
conversation and inspire you to do something that's very nice for the town, very good for the town, and hopefully shouldn't cost any money. So that's good, right? So our County Historical Society has had for some time a project to preserve old cemeteries throughout the county. And I'm going to try and, be concise here, which isn't really my forte. Over the years, they've identified in many of the towns many cemeteries. Now, what you have in front of you is a number of things. You have a big map that shows all of the old historic cemeteries in Delaware Township, produced by our county GIS program. It's a great map. And so what the County Historical Society approached us some time ago to see if we can support a project to start to preserve some of the abandoned cemeteries in the township. So there are, the ones we're starting with to preserve are Lower Creek Cemetery, the Moore Cemetery, and the Bosenberg Cemetery. And in your little packets, there are photographs of those cemeteries. And what
I don't want to, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
But 3 years ago, I recall a conversation on this topic.
Yes.
And I don't have any recollection as to what the specific site was, but I recall there were problems with both of them. In
I'm going
terms
to
of
address
being
those.
landlocked and that no easement access.
I'm going to address all those
Okay,
issues.
so my memory is correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all
But
right.
we can address it.
Okay.
So.
Sorry.
No, it's fine, it's fine. So the abandoned cemeteries are ones for which there's no clear title anymore. We don't know who owns them or whoever owns them. Nobody owns them, really. So there is a process, it's in statute 40:60-25.61.
I knew that.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure you do. It's called vesting title to an abandoned cemetery. And it's a process by which a town can get a court order to transfer title to it. Recently, Stockton has done this for, don't prompt me, I haven't written down. Stockton's done the Howell Cemetery in Stockton, and East Amwell's done it for the Landis Cemetery. And also in your packets are copies of the court orders transferring title to Stockton and East Amwell. That ordinance has a process for this. What we're hoping is that we can inspire you to, have maybe our township administrators contact township administrators in those municipalities and get a clear picture of exactly what was done. We're hoping that the township, so those three cemeteries, Lower Creek, Moore, and Bosenberry, are the ones that really don't have any title. No one owns them at this point. So under this ordinance, this process is allows the court to award the title to the township. The ordinance does not have any provision for doesn't require maintenance or right of way. This Stockton or East Amwell, their process didn't require any of those things. And as a matter of fact, the township already owns two cemeteries, and it doesn't provide any maintenance or right of way. So we already have precedents for this. The Sutton Cemetery and the Thatcher Cemetery are the firehouse. So.
Well, you're saying, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
You're saying provide a right of way. I want to make sure that you and I are on the same page when we're referring to a right of way. I don't mean where the township would own the property and not give others the right of way.
Right.
It's my understanding that these two cemeteries here, if I'm thinking of the same, are in essence landlocked, where there are property owners all 360 degrees around the property, and they won't give the township access to access that property if they were to own it. So in other words, the township.
Let me just suggest this, that it's been done, it's being done. There's a statute that allows for this. And
allows for what?
to have
The statute, from what I understand, does not require a right-of-way or a maintenance plan.
Oh, I'm sure that's the case. So, I just, again, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand. What you're saying is that the township can acquire the property and doesn't need the legal ability to have access to the property to acquire. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know that that changes my concern
Well,
or addresses
yeah,
my
no, I
concern.
hear
But
you.
I'll let you,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure when you were saying access to right of way, what you were referring to.
Right, right.
So
No, I don't mean
I
like
understand what you mean.
building a path and having a
Yeah,
walking
I got you.
path. No, I
Yeah,
don't mean
okay, so go ahead. I'm
So,
sorry.
no, it's fine. So the thing is, right now, the cemeteries are vulnerable to anybody who could. I don't really know the process, but from what I understand, when a property doesn't have a clear title, people can, obtain title to it in some nefarious way.
With your
And,
adverse
they could
possession.
dig them up, and we really would like to see these cemeteries preserved. And I think that there's a method to do this, and we would really like to, and it's been done in other municipalities too. Now, this is Bob Leaf, who's a part of the Historical Society, and he's been working on this project for a long time. And there's other towns, other than Stockton and East Amwell, that have done this. Reddington, Raritan, right? And so I'm kind of thinking if they can do it, we can probably too. There's not anything hugely different about Delaware Township than East Amwell or, with respect to this particular issue. And I would really like to see that, or like to inspire your committee members to, let's continue this conversation and see how we can do this. And
You said they've done this in Reddington and Raritan as well?
apparently.
Well,
yes.
I'm an attorney, and I'm the land use attorney in both of those municipalities. I can make inquiry there.
Good, see, step one, check, put a check mark next to that. Right, like Nancy Bond says, put a check mark next to that. And, if it's useful to, to maybe, I don't know, I know you're all about the park right now, but maybe, you could contact Stockton and East Amwell and see what they've done, although you have, or do we have that?
Does anybody know the Stockton administrator?
That's you, oh, I didn't realize that. There you go. Check
She'll
number two.
call herself tomorrow.
Do we have that extra packet? Wasn't there?
I already gave it to the attorney.
Oh, okay, so you have the packet already, so good.
Yeah, let's hear it.
You gotta share with them. So Sam, tell them what to do. So that's what I'm hoping, so if maybe we can do those two things, reach out to some and see what they've done, and maybe look at Reddington, you said here, or Rutgers?
In both.
There you go. Reach out. And so I hope, I've inspired you a little bit to do this thing. The deed searches have already been done, so I'm check mark. Rich Mangelli, who's an attorney, who lives in the town, and Attorney Leonardville has done the deed searches for these properties, and I guess established that there is nobody who owns them, or there is no clear title anyway. And I guess the next thing would be, what's the next thing? The thing.
That's good.
Okay.
If you could just give permission for us to research this to get an attorney to give you something. East Amwell did this, lot and block was already established, and they had no access agreement for East Amwell or Hammond. So we can do that.
I know it would not be an impediment to quieting title to get ownership. That wasn't the legal advice that I gave. My concern was, why would the township want to acquire property that it could never have access to maintain it if they're the owner of it and you can't maintain it? What's the purpose of acquiring property if you could never touch it?
Sounds like preservation.
It's historic preservation, to make sure that, right.
Nothing else.
Well, it's preserved right now because anybody who goes on it is trespassing.
But it's not
right?
protected. It's
Yeah.
preserved, but it's not protected. Anybody could,
That's the problem. They can smash headstones or steal them, and nobody owns the property. If the township owns it, then
there's some.
There's some measure of protection anyway.
It's simple, we just need it.
But we would never be able to inspect it to see if there's any damage, because we would be trespassing to get there. That's the, I'm just thinking as a practical
Sure,
matter,
sure.
like, if you can't get there, what's the benefit of, I understand by owning it, you prevent somebody else from owning it, but you're not even able to inspect it to see if the headstone, and if the headstone is damaged, I would have to give legal advice to DPW. I would have to say, you're not allowed to go repair it without permission. And we've already spoken to one of those owners, and they said, no bueno, I will never let you walk on my property to get there.
But you
So
know
it's like, what do you do with that
But you know what,
situation?
that's a set of assumptions. I think that if any of those were the case, we could approach the homeowners of the surrounding, and we could talk to them, have a conversation, and start to try and impress upon them the value.
And I think that would be helpful, and I think that my interest, and I'm only speaking for myself, I'm gonna do whatever the township committee directs me to do. But I don't mind sharing my thoughts with everybody. I would like, I would much prefer an application to the board to quiet title, to obtain ownership on that with a recorded access easement that would allow the township to be able to get on that property to fix a headstone, to do whatever. And if that property owner would be willing to encumber their property to allow the township limited access, we could make it, you could define that access in any manner that would give that property owner comfort level. But for me, I would, at that point, that becomes interesting in terms of, you'd be able to effectuate a purpose in acquiring ownership. But to acquire ownership without the ability to ever access it, why would you want to, like,
Well, how
I don't know the benefit.
about this? So I'll propose. You pursue it in Reddington Rare, and Diane.
I'm gonna ask that, I will.
Look into Stockton, and we can think about property owners, and we can maybe.
I will speak with
talk to
Christina
them
Schwartz tomorrow
and start a
in
conversation with
Reddington.
them.
Yeah.
But you have something to.
Yeah, and we could start with Lower Creek Cemetery because it's bounded on one side by New Jersey Conservation where you could get, so let's do that one first.
Okay.
Well, Richmond Jelly, get the paperwork for that. It's very simple, you already have access. The access, I disagree with you totally because Stockton can do it and East Hamilton can do it. And why can't we?
Well, so one step at a
So
time.
let's
One
start
step
with
at a
Lower
time,
Creek.
yeah.
You have access, we'll get the paperwork to you, and then next month.
Again, I've never said that you couldn't acquire ownership with access as a legal matter.
We'd rather see it.
What I'm saying is, I don't see the benefit in doing it, but again, if the township committee says we want to acquire ownership even though we can never access it, certainly that could be done.
So I thought not to prolong the agony.
But.
Oh, please, we just went through a lot of agony, I'm sorry. This is happiness.
But I thought the problem before was we were trying to get a third-party access. Maybe it's different with the township. I thought it wasn't, I thought there was.
I don't remember.
I thought there was a third party that wanted to do maintenance and we were trying to facilitate that.
I don't.
It might have been.
It could have been.
Which may not be the same as the township owns the property and
It may have been.
need it.
I'm just surprised I remember anything at all, to be honest with you.
You're right, there definitely was, but I could swear it was, that there was already somebody currently with sort of a verbal okay to access and do maintenance.
Yeah.
And there was some movement for whatever reason to formalize that, and when it came to formalize it, the owner did not want it.
There was something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember, was that one of these three?
Yeah, we've had access to these cemeteries for 10, 12 years
Right.
through the private. And then we've gotten better at it because we realize we don't need that formal access anymore. So all I want from you guys is tonight to say, okay, we're in favor of, let's start with Lower Creek.
One
Go
step
to-
at a time. One step at a time.
I don't know if that needs a resolution. or-
Well, my legal advice is this, that falls under potential contract negotiations, subject to, so I think we should discuss it in executive session. We could do it whenever the township, and then we come out of executive session,
and the mayor can be authorized to follow up with you guys in terms of what the township committee
Well, we
decides.
can, if we start with the one, which is the one, the New Jersey
But-
Conservation one, which is the one?
Yeah.
The Lower Creek. We start with
What
that
I'm saying
one.
is let the township committee discuss whether they even want to proceed or not, and then give you advice as to do it or not.
Have I inspired you a little bit? Are you a little bit inspired about the value of
Absolutely,
this?
yeah.
So you know something? I hope so.
Your passion for this, that's contagious.
Okay.
Well done.
All right, good, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, where's my agenda? Okay. We're open for public meetings, or public comment, my apologies. This isn't necessarily anything tied to the agenda. If you could keep it to the 3 minutes, and if you could speak from the podium, it would be appreciated. Could I have a motion to open up for public comment?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, anyone that would like to speak? Sweater.
Jan Weber, Delaware Township. I would like to suggest that the Township Committee coordinate with the Board of Education so that residents that are interested in the actions of both parties don't have to pick and choose which one they're going to attend. Ms. Stahl brought up the solar panels and the cost of the playground. I would have been interested in knowing more about that. So if you could consider a little coordination with meeting dates, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
Yep, just from here, Rich Wolinski, Kingwood, Stockton Road, neighbors to the Rosemont Cemetery. I'm real new to the concept of open space preservation, but I think of it as two things, and I totally agree with the community with respect to drawing upon some of that funding to finance what must be done for the preservation of the health of the kids and the community who use the park. But I also think that as kind of forward looking in terms of the insurance policy, when, not if, perhaps a negative or hostile assault on development in the community takes place. And that requires resources to do it. And I also understand, listening back, and I'm only here 6 years, but an emigrant from Lambertville, where they are facing an existential development question on top of the hill above the city of Lambertville. And so that 1.5, if I heard the number correctly, it may now be $1.25 million. It's still a substantial amount of money. And my understanding with respect to the concern about a coordinator for the group, and I've sat in on a total of 1 open space committee meeting, but all of a sudden I'm visiting other communities and listening to their planning and development concerns. So that coordinator position sounds really, really important to me because big cliche word, the boots are on the ground in terms of development and the economy and the depth of pockets of people who are ready to put money down for homes also matches, if we think about the age of or the demographic of our community, 60 or 59 or whatever it is, a lot of the folks that maintain farms, whether they're operating farms or they have farm assessments or they've historically been in the tax records for hundreds of years as farms, those folks may not have a solution other than maybe cashing out with the biggest offer, which could, turn into Raritan Township, that's the choice they have made. So I'm just weighing in with opinions about the value of a coordinator for open space and the thought of, we've seen no results on the 1.5 million to date, but that's kind of what insurance is about, and it may also be something that's active in terms of being able to make a counter proposal to a family that owns a large tract of land, and would we rather not sell it? But in the absence of competition for the land, which might be the township, boom, all right, so I'm done.
You finish it. Oh,
All right, so I'm close to the end of this. The last part is, I think it's an open conversation and not that ratables are king. I've read some information that says you never catch up with new builds. The demand on the community, and it just is what it is. You know, the cost of our communities, the cost of our society and our economy, they're always going to grow. So I understand the hunger for ratables, got to have them. But I also don't believe that putting land in open space preservation in perpetuity necessarily brands Delaware Township as a community in decline. Here comes the nosedive, you know. I think that's open for discussion and debate. And it's just one man's opinion, and I'm new to this community, so they have it.
That debate has been going on for a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? Sure.
John Kursky, resident. Mayor, I meant to send you an email, I forgot, earlier this summer. For stormwater updating every year, is that something the township has to do every year to meet the regulations that we did this past spring?
It's just ongoing work.
So if we can.
Never ends.
I know Sue's requested this a couple of times. If we can, I'd love to do that before like the end of the deadline to do that.
We've been asking for a joint meeting with the Stormwater Committee and
Right.
the Environmental Commission, and it's just, timing has just been not.
Because I think the
So
idea
maybe
behind
September?
I think the idea behind the meeting would be, you know, how can we divvy up the responsibility to see if we can meet those requirements? Because it was actually pretty easy. One of the guys from your office called me like the day before it was due, and we hammered it out. It took like 25 minutes, but if I wasn't home or I actually was working from home that day, it wouldn't have gotten done. And I don't know what the repercussions of that would have been.
What was that about the public education and outreach?
It was outreach. It was like, you know, how can we check boxes? You know, we use the bridge as like a newspaper. Like there's some things.
Yeah, a lot
that
of
we
it is
accomplished.
checking boxes.
Yeah, yeah, and it was easy, but I just, you know, I'd hate for that to not get done because we don't plan ahead of time. Now we're almost a year out from doing it again. But even if we don't do a joint meeting, maybe we could even do a couple of people from each of those commissions and meetings at a time that's convenient for you. I know that you probably attend a lot of meetings. I know we probably pay you to be at these meetings. Let's make it easy to do this, and it doesn't have to be, you know, in September, but perhaps between now and whenever it was, end of May, I don't remember what month it was, if we can.
Yeah, it's per calendar year. So
Yeah, so
whatever has to be done that's reported on May 1st
Right.
needs to be completed by December 31st.
You know, it's-
So that's really one tiny element of the entire permit.
And that's why we have been, the Stormwater Committee, like, wants to assist in some way. And then we brought that sort of to the Environmental Commission. So I mean, we all want to participate if we can, if there's a role for us. And that's why we were just trying to, and that together with the road department, we figure we all play a role somehow. And right now, I don't think any of us know what our role is.
Well, that's what, certainly, I totally get where you're coming from, both. What we've been focusing on now is this beginning of this new permit. It's a 5-year permit cycle, 2023 to 2028, January 1st to January 1st. Beginning really was these ordinances, adopting those ordinances. You know, certainly with Justin, with the DPW, updating or at least understanding the current operations at the DPW yard, reporting to the DEP what those operations are, forming or preparing a report that really outlines a pollution prevention plan for the yard and for all, you know, really Justin's daily operations with the DPW. There is a large element, and we talked, maybe you mentioned it before in different conversations, you know, the mapping of all the stormwater facilities. That proposal's now been approved, and it's on our docket, and it's not me myself, but another department, the GIS department, the Geographical Information Systems department. They're going to be coming into town hopefully the next month or two to survey the entire town, locate every ditch, every pipe, every outfall, every drain, everything. Whatever touches stormwater, they have to map, and that's required under the permit. Once that element's complete, there is the next 3-year phase, and that's where I think the environmental commission as well as, or environmental committee, as well as the stormwater committee would be certainly involved, as well as the planning board, the zoning board, this committee, the township committee. It's called the watershed improvement plan. I've recently worked on, in Delaware's not in the Highlands, but the Highlands is actually putting out, they have a grant program right now for stormwater compliance. So I put together a scope of work, and I can certainly share that with you soon, for this watershed improvement plan. And that's where I think we're gonna really get into the weeds on this thing and bring the public into it. And all the committees. And we need to talk about localized flooding, erosion, general drainage problems, and then that's where, through a 3-year process, which includes multiple phases of public meetings, we have to create this watershed improvement plan that we now have to give to the DEP. And that has 3 years of reporting requirements, and in the end, what's gonna happen is we're gonna find that when we do a road job, now we're not gonna just, minimize the disturbance, minimize the paving, but now we have to make a commitment to start doing stormwater improvements on these projects. So we're gonna pave half a mile of road, we're gonna have to build into that, and it might affect how much road we can pave, but we have to actually do some drainage improvements on it. Not just, repair a catch basin, but actually do something that's gonna reduce the runoff, or improve the water quality, or do something else. And that's what's gonna come out of all these conversations, so.
Yeah,
So that's coming down the pike, we're just not there.
Again, and I guess
And the
my-
mapping is the first part of this.
Right, I guess my ask is that if there's a deadline that needs to be met, you need information, just maybe
Oh, sure.
some sort of reminder, a little ahead of time, we can get that to you very easily. I think that's the point.
Sure.
And then just one other quick thing. I know Justin mentioned it before. There is a really beautiful White Oak Trail sign that's been moved so everyone can see it, and it's wonderfully mowed. So this is my monthly pitch for everybody to go to White Oak Trail, go hiking. It hasn't looked better in a long time, and I love the way they put the sign up. It's a little different. So you drive any direction, you know where to go. I encourage all of you to do it. It is quite nice this time of year. So there you go. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I just have a quick question. I was reading an earlier minutes from this meeting too, a motion made regarding parking on certain roads. And it wasn't clear from there what was voted on. It was Buchanan and.
Buchanan,
It was a fine and I.
is it Seabrook too?
Yes, yes.
Memberville has ordinance. We created an ordinance so that people couldn't park on those particular roads at certain times. Was it all the time? All the time, just because of the narrowness of the roads and anticipating possible large volumes of cars in certain areas.
So right now throughout the township, and everywhere I go, we see landscapers who park on the roads and even if it's unsafe. Would there be someone enforcing those rules?
I mean, if someone's parked there and those ordinances are in effect for that particular, we can call the police and.
Maybe they probably should start warning these guys because you live in the same.
Yeah, I'm on the headquarters.
Yeah.
I see it everywhere. I mean, I saw it in Morris County when I
I
went to work.
agree.
You go into work and it's a really narrow street and you've got these landscapers, I'm like, why can't they park in the driveways?
Right.
Oh, I didn't mean, sometimes they don't have
Plus,
driveways.
again, it is there, there's at least one I know that I'm driving and it's right by a hill. So
Right.
you
You have to go around.
Go around
Fine.
and
It's a blind
Right.
spot when they cross. So if it could be, I agree, it should be, they should know they can't do it.
Yeah, and they probably don't know, so maybe.
But I think it's a good idea because.
Yeah.
Giving them a little.
So on any of those roads that are marked and someone is doing that, call the police.
I would say funny doing it now because it's new. I think it's somehow they find out about it somehow.
Well, I said, they don't have to, it should just give them a little.
Yeah, there would be a warning. I mean, listen, our police aren't exactly
Like this is.
out to
how
give
it is.
tickets. You know, they'll warn them, and then if it's recurring, it's a condemnation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody? Sir?
Just 1 minute for the turn. If the township took possession of these things and acquired the title, that would prevent an adverse possession.
would prevent an adverse possession because my legal opinion is that adverse possession does not apply to a municipality.
And that's your reason to get.
There we go. We'll send you the bill.
I still don't know that that.
No, we already have, let's go
Anybody else?
forward. Next.
Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to close public
So
comment
moved.
session 2? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, let's see. Any final township committee comments? Mr. Bauer, I'm gonna start with you.
None.
Mrs. Lockwood, I've certainly said enough tonight, so I am good. We are going to go ahead and move into executive session for approval of resolution 24-164 to enter into executive session for purposes of discussing personnel matters, litigation, and something falling under attorney-client privilege. This discussion is expected to take approximately 30 minutes. Action may be taken. Yeah, can I get a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll do that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Are we done?
Everything every day. Thanks for coming, everyone.
I think I need to stay. Jamie, you need me to stay?
Do we, anything else to do with Adam or engineering?